Abuelo Ancestral Echo is now the best Azorius Blink commander. That's right, better than Brago, better than Renar, better than Yorion, and yes, even better than my Bay of Farah. And here's why. It's repeatable, at instant speed, doesn't need any help. For all of Brago's power, you are limited to getting the trigger at most once a round, and only on your turn. Yorion only gets you one trigger, and Renar, well, I never thought Renar was a good Blink commander. I feel like getting a 1/1 on top of the Blink effect isn't worth taking up the commander slot. You can work around all these problems with other cards in your deck, but the benefit of Abuelo is that it doesn't need anything else. It has built-in protection, built-in evasion, and a repeatable effect that you can use at any time, all at a mana value of 3, which is lower than those other Blink commanders. Now it does have some drawbacks. It's only a 2/2, and the Blink it provides isn't instantaneous, meaning you get the target back at the next end step. And the Blink requires a non-insignificant amount of mana. So if you still want to run your Brago deck, go for it, I get it. I'm not trying to bust up anyone's fun. I just think Abuelo Ancestral Echo is better. Now the way I see it, you can build Abuelo Ancestral Echo in 2 ways. Bad Abuelo and good Abuelo. Bad Abuelo is... man, it's really bad, and I feel bad for even putting these ideas into the world if they don't already exist. There's this card that recently came out called the One Ring, maybe you've heard of it. Assuming you already picked up that Abuelo can blink artifacts, you would now understand that Abuelo can reset the burden counters on the One Ring. We could also abuse older artifacts like Winter Orb or Static Orb. The clever player will note that you can blink one of the orbs during the end step of the player before you, and you'll essentially be immune to the untapping limitations you are burdening the table with. Good Abuelo is fair, just, and the way Magic was meant to be played. For instance, blinking creatures to draw cards, or blinking creatures to bounce permanents, or blinking creatures to save them from removal, or blinking creatures on your opponent's end step, then casting Disciple of Kalis Nin to phase out the entire board, then you have your stuff blink back in, and then blinking the Disciple again and again, over and over again, or blinking Archaeomancer to bring back Everybody Lives over and over again, so the game takes like 6 hours. Wait, are we the bad Abuelo? We're not a bad Abuelo, we're just a... This deck is more or less a good Abuelo deck. We'll mostly be using the blink effect to generate value and some control, while we work towards a repeatable blink engine on a few key big blink targets that can single-handedly win the game. We'll start with some cards that work well, or in tandem with Abuelo, to emphasize his abilities. Training Grounds is maybe the most powerful card in the deck, and will generally be the target for all your tutor effects. Omen Hawker is a really efficient mana generator for a deck focused on a 3-mana activated ability. Sally Sparrow will let you cast lots of things at flash speed, and provide some slowish card draw. Elish Norn will double your blink effects and make everyone mad at you. We round out the synergies with Eldrazi Displacer, Mist Meadow Witch, and Soul Herder. All of these provide a layer of blink redundancy. Because of Eldrazi Displacer, we run a few more colorless producing utility lands than normal to make sure we have some colorless mana when we need it. Soul Herder is a flex spot right now. The free once a turn blink, combined with the ability to grow pretty big with your other blink effects, makes this a fine card to run. However, you could also run Heartstone in this spot, as another Training Grounds effect. But run this at your own risk, as it reduces the activated ability cost for all creatures, not just yours. If you do decide to risk it for the biscuit, you may want to add a few more creatures with activated abilities than I run, just to make sure that you can leverage Heartstone more than your opponents. These are going to be the standard blink targets you'll be playing as the game develops, and we'll start with some creature generation. Reverent Hoplite and Geist Honored Monk are there to help with the sheer numbers on the battlefield. Reverent Hoplite can go really wide, and Geist Honored Monk can go really tall and a little bit wide. The Mightstone and Weakstone is a good blink target in general and can also provide some mana to help with Abuelo activations. I also run a Urza Lord Protector for a cheeky meld opportunity and the occasional discount. Limbus is a good early game play that can just sit there until you start some blinking. Here's a tip for Coveted Jewel: make sure you can blink it or have a ton of blockers. You don't want to get caught with your pants down and have someone else gain control of it. Sun Titan is a white blink staple, and I pair it with Extraction Specialist. I don't have a ton of experience with Extraction Specialist, but I want to give it a shot. If I end up liking it, I'll probably add more synergies with it into the deck. Knight Paladin and Githzeri Monk are both ways to end the game. The Monk will give your army unblockability, more or less, while Knight Paladin will go around the combat step and can be repeatedly blinked to grind down opponents. Servox Tomb and White Plume Adventurer both dip our toes into the initiative game. You can use these for incremental advantages, and if you finish the Undercity, you can start using these for really big gains, with or without blinking. Stonehorn Dignitary can completely stymie combat-focused decks, and Set's Tiger works as a mini The One Ring in terms of protection. Rounding out the target section is Yorion Sky Nomad and Peregrine Drake. Yorion will give you a mass blink, though it's kind of delayed when you combine it with Abuelo. Peregrine Drake won't go infinite with Abuelo, though it can with Eldrazi Displacer or Miss Meadow Witch. But it's not there for infinite stuff, it's mostly there as a way to get extra mana on other players' turns. I promised big game-changing blinks, and I deliver big game-changing blinks. First up is the removal threats, Angel of the Ruins and Luminate Primordial. These will allow you to break pillow forts apart and creature strategies, whatever. The other two major targets are Agent of Treachery, who will eventually let you control the entire table and draw millions of cards, and Diluvian Primordial, who will let you use everyone else's spells in their graveyards as your own, and for free. All those big threats cost 7 mana, so we need enough ramp to be able to even get them into play reliably. I use mostly standard stuff, starting with Azorius Signet, Mind Stone, Talisman of Progress, and Thought Vessel. There's a small creature ramp package consisting of Knight of the White Orchid, Scheming Fence, and Space Marine Scout. I'm really trying out Space Marine Scout. I'm not sure that I want a second creature ramp that depends on opponents having more lands than me, especially once I start blinking and potentially get more lands than them. It may be worth the extra mana to run something like Solemn Simulacrum or Core Cartographer, but we'll see. Rounding out the ramp is Decanter of Endless Water, which provides another maximum hand size effect, which is needed once you start blinking card draw cards. Liquid Metal Torque is fairly standard, but you can squeeze a little bit of extra juice out of it by using the second ability to turn an enchantment into an artifact and then blink it in response to some enchantment removal or something. Being a blink deck gives us a lot of room to have interactions on our creatures and artifacts, and we absolutely take advantage of that here with some classic blink interaction and some new stuff. Reflector Mage and Deputy of Detention are staple Azorius blink removal, either to deal with annoying creatures or token rushes. Palace Jailer and Solitude are fine creature removal, with Palace Jailer including a card draw and a way to control the monarchy, which is more than the United Kingdom can say. Lorn of the Third Path, Cavalier of Dawn, and Skyclave Apparition are all good removal. Lorn is so good I hesitate to keep putting it in my decks. It's not quite Sol Ring levels of boring, but it's something I've noticed. Venser Shaper Savant is a classic blink target, but we won't be doing that too much here since we won't be able to blink and bounce a spell. You can get that counter on the initial play, but after that, you're just boomeranging. Guardian Faith is just great protection, it's a personal favorite of mine. Last but not least are Portable Hole and Dauntless Dismantler. Portable Hole I'm liking more and more as equipment removal or as like a populate token removal. It can also pick off overpowered mana generators like Sol Ring and Mana Crypt. I doubly like it when you can blink it and pick new targets as the game goes on. Dauntless Dismantler is a nice anti-treasure card with the added ability to wipe all the artifacts. Using this with Extraction Specialist seems very powerful, and it's one of the reasons I'm trying out Extraction Specialist. Day of Judgment and Wrath of God are here because they're on the cheaper end of the board wipes, so it's nice to be able to use Abuelo to protect some of your creatures and then wipe the board. Austere Command is a classic, but you could really run any board wipe you like here, something like Farewell or whatever. Disciple of Kalistan is something I'm testing. I really want this to be good. It seems like a very fun card. I think a blink commander is probably the best way. You blink out some creatures, then phase everyone else out, then your blink creatures come back and you have the advantage. If you try this, please let me know in the comments how it works for you, or let me know in the comments how bad of an idea this is. Yes, I actually do run Archaeomancer and Everybody Lives. I'm a bad person. Leave a like on the video, and if I get like 1,000 likes, I promise I'll be a better person, but I will not be taking this out of the deck. I split my sculpting in this deck broadly into 2 parts, card draw and tutoring. On the tutoring end, I run Enlightened Tutor and Moonblessed Cleric. Training Grounds again is probably the best card in the deck, and both of these will get you that. Archaeomancer's map is a nice way to thin out your deck and make sure you're hitting your land drops. This is especially relevant late into the game. You're going to need all the mana you can get for multiple blink activations. Dizzy Spell is mostly there to get Training Grounds. Again, Training Grounds is a very important card. Now we get to the card draw, starting with Spirited Companion and Watcher for Tomorrow. Both 2 mana for essentially drawing 1, both are fine to blink in the early game. Also, I love dogs. Muldrifter and Tocasia's Welcome are both 3 mana value draws. Muldrifter can obviously be broken in this style of deck, while Tocasia's Welcome will trigger when most of your blinks come back. We finish up the sculpting section with 2 cards I'm testing. Prophetic Prism, just to get the cheap early card draw, but it's also there for a little bit of mana filtering. We do run a good number of colorless utility lands and ramp artifacts, and Abuelo's ability takes 2 different types of mana. I'm hoping this smooths out any potential mana issues. Extraordinary Journey can be used defensively, but will also just give you a card when you play it for 2 mana and your blink targets return back into play. I only run 3 utility lands, and really, Reliquary Tower is probably the only one I would say is necessary in this deck. I also run Volatile Fault and Wasteland for some non-basic destruction, but feel free to run whatever utility lands you want. I run 11 Azorius providing lands, including a Darker Wastes, Azorius Chancery, Command Tower, Deserted Beach, Flooded Strand, Glacial Fortress, Hollowed Fountain, Mystic Gate, Nimbus Maze, Sea of Clouds, and Tundra. As always, if any card in here is too expensive for you, just proxy it. You have my permission. The deck ends with 9 islands and 13 plains. The phases of the game for this deck are pretty simple. You aren't really focusing on anything other than staying alive until the point where you can start blinking your big targets and taking over the game. The challenge comes in the turn-to-turn plays, deciding when to play more cards or worry about blinking the ones you already have in play. Now the challenge for you is to figure out which video of mine to watch next, this Ariette of the Charmed Apple video or this Hilda of the Icy Crown video. Take a look, and I will see you around.